Coming up on Unpacked.
These guys would keep me for the evening and rape me. And I had my first sip of wine and always love at first sight. I was always the guy arriving with a case of beers. I sat on my couch when I was in my 30s with my gun in my mouth asking God to give me the courage to kill myself. It's a wonderful gift that I have. I know I'm an alcoholic.
Addicted to alcohol at the age of 9, but here to share his story, let's unpack. Following his parents' divorce, Nicholas Ingel moved to Cape Town with his mother at the age of 3. Their new life in a new city, however, would set the tone for the rest of his life. At 9 years old, his tumultuous childhood saw Nicholas Ingel turn to alcohol, seeing him battle with alcoholism for over 2 decades. This is part 1 of his story. Let's unpack. Nicholas, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So take me back to your earliest childhood memories. What are one of the first things that you can remember?
I think I can remember growing up in Johannesburg, my mom getting divorced and sort of moving to Natal. It's sort of the very, very beginning.
So your mom got divorced from dad?
Yeah.
And you were around how old at the time?
4 years old, yeah.
So you guys then moved to Natal because you were, mom and dad were...
So mom, she got remarried quite soon after.
Yeah, so was the new husband in Natal, based in Natal. And what do you recall that move being like for you?
So it was a little bit confusing at the time. So leaving sort of my family that was in Johannesburg, but we moved to a farm in Hillcrest and it was exciting. Horses, cows, chickens. I had my own horse.
Yes.
Going into the forest with my stepfather, Errol, hunting for honey and all of these things. It was a lot of fun.
Did you guys have a good relationship with your stepdad? We had a great
relationship, yeah.
Yes. So what is the next significant thing that happened in your life?
So the big thing was Errol taking his own life.
Wow.
When my mom was out in town and I was alone at home with him, and we had a farmhouse that was almost like an A-frame. So upstairs there was an attic.
Yes.
And there were these slatted stairs that you could see through. And I was playing on the top of the stairs and he was doing something at his desk. And suddenly there was a big bang. And I looked up and Errol was gone. And there was this thing left in his place. He had blown his head off.
Wow.
So literally from here, gone. And the body fell on the floor in front of me, and there was blood and there was gurgling sounds. And I don't know how long I was alone with the body, but when they found me, I was clinging to the banister. And I had in my mind that if I stayed with him, he would be okay. And, the blood was still coming out, and I thought, okay, if I just stay with him, he'll be fine. And they were trying to pull me off the banister and to get me away from him. And that feeling, even when I talk about it now, I want to hold on to the chair because I feel it now. And that's where I have a terrible fear of heights from. So that was very, very tough. And my mom couldn't deal with it and she disappeared for a while. My grandparents came down to look after me.
By disappeared, you mean physically left.
Yeah.
And you were how old at this point?
4.
So you were still 4 at this point. This all happened in a short space of time.
Very short space of time,
yes. So when your grandparents came, this is mom's parents?
Yeah, my mom's parents.
Did they come to Natal and take you with them?
So I remember going to stay in a hotel, and it was one of those old residential hotels. Those are sort of the memories that I have of just sort of there with them. And then my mom came back and we moved to Cape Town. What, if you can recall, state was mom in when she came back? I don't have any memory of that. The next sort of memory that kicks in is going to school in Cape Town and spending time with, trying to make friends, which I wasn't very good at.
So why was Cape Town the new place that you moved to with Mom?
So I think for her, it was the 70s. My mom was gay, and it was a lot easier for her to be herself in Cape Town rather than in Johannesburg.
So, I mean, just from your memory, at the time, were you aware that Mom was gay? Because she had two husbands that you are aware of. When did you become aware of the fact that Mom is gay?
So even in Cape Town, she had a living girlfriend, Patty, and we were a family unit. So there wasn't anything out of the ordinary. And however Mom explained it to me, it was okay.
Yes,
So it wasn't anything untoward.
Yes. So now you're living in Cape Town, and I mean, you're still a small kid.
Yep.
Was there anything about Mom that changed at that time?
No, I think her drug use escalated. And so my mom, this is something that I try to express to people when I share. She was not a bad person. She had challenges. And I don't think at that time people really were aware on how to deal with them. And she started using marijuana and prescription medication as a way of coping. But unfortunately, what happened, the more that she used, the less she became her. And she started to do some pretty challenging things. So when I was about, I think, 6 years old, my mom started to send me off to spend the night with her gay male friends. And these guys would keep me for the evening and rape me. And one of the most vivid memories that I have is being stuck in the bed with these two guys on top of me. And they were asleep, and I managed to quietly wriggle out under them. And the door was locked. I mean, I didn't really know where I was. And I went to stand by the window because it was physically as far from them that I could get. And I looked out the window, and now this is an apartment building in Cape Town, in Sea Point, and I'm looking at the street, and it's maybe 3, 4 in the morning. It's dark, it's quiet. And the thought that comes to me is, what did I do that's so bad that would make my mom send me here?
In terms of you as an adult, now knowing what you know, that your mom was sick, what do you think her motivation was to send you away? And do you think she was sending you away because she was exhausted being a mom and it was easier and she had friends that said, we'll take him, not aware what was going on? Or she sent you away fully aware of what was going on?
I think she wasn't thinking things through clearly. That's really, I think, I don't think there was a malicious motivation from her side. But unfortunately, that escalated, and she started to. This has taken me many, many years of work to unpack.
Yes.
And I've always been very determined to do the work that's necessary, because I was a victim as a child, and I'm not willing to be a victim as an adult.
Yes.
I'm not interested in. I'll go into whatever pain now that I have to, irrespective of how difficult the trauma is. And I did a lot of work on this, and about 6, 7 years ago, the memories of being sent to my mom's dealers came back. So these were guys, coloured guys in the Cape Flats, sort of Philippi, Bishopshaven. When you drive out to the airport from Cape Town, you go past where the old power station was, and those houses on the left. And I remember that part of town. And there would be up to 10 guys at a time. And
that were raping you?
Yeah, they would drug me, and they would basically use me as a toy.
And you were, and I'm going to come back to this.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to, I mean, you were speaking about one of the memories that you had looking out the window into Sea Point. You were about 6 years old. When you went back home, and obviously I understand not all memories are going to be vivid. There's certain things that you probably have blocked out. Do you recall ever telling mom to say, listen, I don't want to go back there, or this happened to me?
So I made 2 decisions that night that affected a large portion of my life. I made a decision as a 6-year-old little child that I carried into adulthood. And the first one was, must be my fault. Okay. And the second one was, which was far more destructive, was, okay, this is how I can get my mom to love me if I do a good enough job.
In what way? And help me understand that, as in if I please her friends?
Yes.
Wow.
Correct.
So your 6-year-old self believed that mom knew where she was sending you and what was happening there. So if you could make these people happy, it will gain mom's approval and affection. I understand.
I'm adopted. And that abandonment was sort of the first time in my life where I felt, okay, even my own biological mother didn't love me. So I better make sure that Valerie would love me. So I need to do whatever she wants. So and she may not even have comprehended really what was happening.
Yes. At what age did she adopt you?
Even before I was born.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, so she had you basically, she's the only mom you've ever known.
No, yeah.
And at that point as a 6-year-old, did you know you were adopted?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think they did a really good job of explaining it, because I've always known my whole life, but there was always that issue of no one wants me.
Yes, which is, quite a common thing with children who've been adopted, as why was I not good enough to be kept?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So now fast forward to how you found yourself and how old you were where you were being sent to your mom's dealers, and explain to me from the adult perspective where she was sending you and why.
Yeah. So I think maybe from my mom's side, she was under the impression or believed that she was just sending me to, stay with her friends, to have an experience of staying with a family in Cape Town, in the Cape Flats. And because I remember it was a home, it was a house. And I remember the one time they would drug me. And
do you know what they drugged you with?
No. And I remember stumbling out of the bedroom. And there was an old lady sitting in the kitchen. And I was looking at her and trying to, get someone to help me. And someone came behind me and picked me up and then carried me back into the bedroom. That's why I'm not a fan of being picked up.
And you were how old about it?
Also 6, 7.
And, your mom's partner at the time, was she also engaging in drug use?
I'm not sure. I think my mom was onto her second long-term girlfriend.
Yes.
At this time, so I'm not sure what they were doing.
I think I'm
quite sure that I don't think that one partner would be using without the other.
Yes. I think I was trying to establish and to paint a picture. We're not trying to say your mom was this monster. We're trying to look at the time that it was in,
for sure,
where certain conversations were not had. It was in the 70s. And the fact that was there a sober adult, a consistent sober adult around you that could say, guys, something here is not right?
No.
Okay. So now...
my mother's whole social group were marijuana smokers. So that was her clique.
Yes.
So that's all we knew. That was our norm.
So while she was sending you to her friends who were dealers that were raping you in, a group of 10 men, did you ever find the courage, because I'm assuming you were still going to school at the time, to tell a teacher, to tell anybody?
No, because I thought if I behaved, if I did as I was told, if I did what was asked of me, that maybe I could get my mom to start to like me.
Did you feel like she didn't like you?
Yeah.
And was it because she was sending you away, or she generally didn't treat you very well?
My mother was there was always food. There was always, but there was no stability. There was no safety in the home. And that was a big thing. So I thought that if I could make her happy, then she would calm down.
Was there a part of you that maybe felt that if you told an adult outside of the home that mom would get in trouble?
That thought didn't even cross my mind. It was just about make her happy. You know, it's about trying to get love.
Yes.
Trying to be loved.
When was your first taste of alcohol and what were the circumstances for that to happen?
I was 9 years old, and it was the Jewish festival of Pesach. And traditionally, we have 4 glasses of wine. And, back in those days, the kids sat at one table and the adults sat at another table. And I had my first sip of wine, and it was love at first sight. And I finished love at first taste. I finished my 4 glasses, and I started taking the other kids' glasses of wine and pouring them in my soup.
Was it normal at that time for kids to be sipping wine?
Most kids were like, ugh.
Yes,
they weren't interested. But for me, it was like, yes.
So you distinctly remember adding it to your soup because...
I remember the first time I drank, I started hiding my drinking. So when people ask me, am I an alcoholic? It's a wonderful gift that I have. I know I'm an alcoholic.
You knew immediately.
Yeah, there was no question.
In terms of what that first feeling was, because a lot of people who are addicted to drugs will talk about chasing the dragon, that first high, right? What is that like with the alcohol for you?
So for me, it's just about oblivion. It's about being numb. It's about not feeling. Life for me is like feeling overload.
Yes.
Highly anxious all the time. Thinking about just now, panicking. Because for me, there wasn't, on the outside, our life looked idyllic, but there was no stability. There was no safety. My safety really, and I'm speaking at my high school in March, and the reason I want to do that is to explain to the teachers how vital their role is. I've sat on my couch in my 30s with my gun in my mouth asking God to give me the courage to kill myself. And I believe I've got a good relationship with God. The drinking didn't work anymore. The reason I didn't pull the trigger was my teachers at school, because they were my safe place. Like Terry de Jong, my guidance counselor, my other homeroom teachers.
So they were the most consistent thing in your life.
That's the bottom. They were consistent.
Yes.
And that consistency was safety.
So let's go back to, you explained that it was numbing the pain, numbing your feelings.
Numbing everything.
Numbing everything. What was that everything that you needed to numb, if you could describe it?
So that is as much as being able to talk to people, being able to be integrating into a crowd, walking into a room of strangers, walking into a room of family.
But in the case of a 9-year-old child, right, what was the feeling, the pain of my mom not loving me? Was the feeling, the pain and rejection of being given up as a child? Was it the pain of abandonment? What were all the feelings that as a 9-year-old you needed to numb?
It was all of that at exactly the same time.
I got you. So it's extremely overwhelming.
Completely and utterly overwhelming. And for the first time, it's almost like having alcohol and thinking, wow, I have clarity of thought. Because you drown out so much, you're just left with a few thoughts instead of all of them at one time.
So it's almost like your feelings become manageable.
Yeah.
Yes,
that's it.
You quieten to the noise a little bit.
Your feelings become survivable.
So how did you now continue drinking after that first experience? Because this was a special occasion where alcohol was readily available. How did you keep doing it?
So I didn't, except for Friday nights when there was wine available. So I'd have a little bit now and then. The first time I drank, I got in as much as I could. And then I didn't feel so great the next day. Then I remember but whenever there was going out with friends at school, so probably into my teenage years, because also the abuse stopped after a while, after a couple of years. Maybe I don't know why, but it stopped, and then life took over.
When you say the abuse, you mean the sexual abuse?
The sexual abuse stopped, yeah.
So in my mind, it stopped because you got older. Right? And the disgusting people that were doing what they were doing to you clearly have fetishized you having been a young kid that was less likely to speak or try and defend themselves. So when you say you got into your teenage years, I mean, you're a growing boy now.
Yeah.
It might not be as easy to take advantage of a child your age. So for you, when it stopped, what did you interpret that as at the time?
So it was almost like going to visit someone regularly, and then once a month, once every 2 months, and then it stopped. So it sort of faded into just into not happening anymore. And then I shut down that part of me. So the memories of the abuse, they came back. Many years, I was about probably 33, 34, and I was watching a carte blanche show on abuse. And I'd come back from the pub and I was drunk, and some of those memories came flooding back. And I literally collapsed on the floor. And I phoned my therapist that I was seeing at the time. And she said, come over now. It was about 11 o'clock at night. And then she worked with me for about 2 hours to try and get me through that. The memories of the gang rapes only came back 5-6 years ago. So it's stuff that I'm constantly working on and unpacking.
And I'm happy that you explain it the way you did, because while we can sit and talk about it and go through a timeline, the reality is the memories only came back much later.
Much later, yeah.
Whether your brain or your body was protecting you by blocking them out, and then other things triggered you as an adult who actually knows exactly what was going on. So what was the remainder of school like for you? Because you started drinking, the abuse stops, but like you say, you're a teenager now. There's puberty, there are new issues to face.
So I think I was always the guy arriving with a case of beers or a bottle or two of wine. Going on the wine route trips, I was drunk at the first wine farm. Where guys are wanting to do all the wine farms. No, let's stay here, guys, it's fine. I was always the one encouraging the drinking, because I didn't want to drink alone.
Yes.
So that's that's what the childhood was. When my mom killed herself when I was in standard 9. So the 25th of December, 1987. And I came to live in Johannesburg with my dad.
So what actually happened? Because you're having this whole experience. Tell us the story around your mom taking her life.
So I was on holiday in Margate with my father. He would get me every 2 weeks in December. And we were on holiday and we got a phone call to say my mother has passed. And about 3 years later, I found out that she took her own life.
So you didn't know? They never told you at the time?
Didn't tell me, yeah.
When you got the news that she had passed, how did they say she had passed?
So my mom had been going to hospital every December, January, or every couple of years. And we were told she had Crohn's disease, and she was... this is what was presented to the family. I suspect it was probably to an asylum or a sanitarium for help, because her parents were trying to help her. She was trying to get help, but the drug use starts out as a means of coping, drug or alcohol. But the more we use, the more it erodes who we are.
Yeah. So. You found out, was the decision made for you to then live with your father?
Yeah.
So you moved?
Moved to Johannesburg.
And when did you get the news that actually your mom took her own life?
I overheard a conversation with my grandparents about one of her cousins having asked, how did she do it?
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did mom do it?
I didn't ask.
And to this day, you still don't know how she took her life.
Yeah. I don't think it's important,
Yes.
At the end of the day. I think given what we've been through also the last 2 years, people pass. The first question is, is it
COVID?
Yeah. It's not important. It's just what's important is the person's gone.
Next time on Unpacked.
I would have drunk myself to death or I would have shot myself. And he said, Nick, you're an alcoholic. You start the program on Monday. You kill a child when you abuse a child. What happened to me wasn't because I was a bad child. It was because my mother was an addict. It took me 11 years of being sober before I could love myself.
Thank you so much for watching Unpacked with Relebogile Mabotja. Make sure you subscribe to my channel where you can get to watch more episodes. But more importantly, you can be part of our online community. Comment down below, share with us who you'd like to see on the show, what story you'd like us to discuss. We love engaging with you. Keep it coming and don't forget to subscribe.